Hello everyone, welcome to another Stata tutorial video. In this video, I'm going to go through a simple example of a do file. A do file allows you to write up multiple Stata commands and then execute them with a single button press. This is very useful in recording everything that we do to manipulate a data set. Additionally, if you want to make a change to your data, instead of having to go through all the steps again, you can make the change and then run the do file again. And this saves a lot of time. Before we get started, we need to make sure that we set the working directory, as always. You can do that from right here in the File menu, or you can simply type cd and then the folder path. So I'm going to do that now. To make a do file, we first have to start up the do file editor, and you can do that from the pencil and paper button right here in the toolbar. This will pull up a text editor where you can start writing your do file. The first thing we're going to have our file do is open up the data set. So I'm going to go back to the main Stata interface, click Open. And we can see here we have a data set called Indiana 100, which I will be providing to you. If we open this up, you can see that Stata used the command use and then the file path for the data set clear. What this does is fully clears out whatever you had in the memory and then loads up that particular data set. As with any Stata command, this is going to be saved in the review window, and what we can do is simply right-click this, copy, and then paste that into our do file. Let's save this do file. I'm going to call this sample script. Once the do file is saved, we can run it. So I'm going to go back here and type do sample script and hit enter. As you can see from the main output window, sample script ran its one line of code, which told Stata to clear out the memory and then reload the data set. What I often like to do is test out the commands that I want my script to run right here in the command window and then copy paste them. Over here in the variables window, we can see that our data set has 5 variables: sex, age, race, education, and income. I'm going to create a variable that indicates whether or not an observation is white. In this data set, race is coded with different numbers, and 1 indicates white. So to make this variable, I'm going to use the generate command, or gen for short. Then I need to name the variable. I'll call it white. Now we use a single equal sign to assign a value to white. And the value we're going to assign is race double equals 1. Double equals is a logical equals, which returns a 1 if the two variables, race and 1, are the same, and a 0 otherwise. A single equal sign is an assignment, which sets the value of the variable on the left to whatever shows up on the right. I'm going to run this. Now we can go into the data browser to see if it worked. As we can see, all of the observations where race is 1, we got a 1 here, and for everything else, we got a 0. Now that we know that worked, I'm going to copy that into my do file. Let's do one more. Going back to the data, we also have an education variable. Let's say that I want to make a variable that indicates whether or not an observation finished high school. In this data set, 6 and up indicates finishing high school. So I'm going to create a new variable. I'll call it high school equals education greater than or equal to 6. Let's check that. As you can see, the first two observations are in category 5 and 4, so they get a 0. Category 7 and 8 gives us a 1, and so forth. So this looks good. I'm going to now copy that line of code into the do file editor. Okay, now I'm going to clear everything out. Now we can check the data browser again, and we can see that there's nothing here. I've gotten rid of all the data. Now if I run sample script again, we can see in the variable window, everything is now back. It's loaded up the original data set and then created the white and high school variables, just as I told it to do. Now to finish up, let's put in a few extra commands. So let's suppose that I wanted to make a scatter plot showing the relationship between income and age. To make a scatter plot, we use the command scatter, and then the variable we want on the y-axis, so let's say income, and then the variable that we want on the x-axis, I'll put age. And then finally, I'm going to run a regression to see how income correlates with all the other variables that we have. So I'm going to put in age, sex, and then I'm going to use our new variables, white and high school. Save this. Now the next time that I run sample script, it should clear out the data, pull up Indiana 100, create my two variables, create a scatter plot, and then finally run my regression. I can either type out do sample script again, or I can simply double click on somewhere where it appears in the review window. As you can see, we now have our scatter plot that showed up right here, and then our regression results in the output window. This has been a simple example of how to create and run a do file. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks for watching.